Hello guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 potential trade destinations for Artemi Panarin. Now, Artemi Panarin is arguably the best player on the market right now when it comes to the NHL trade deadline, but which NHL teams will pursue Artemi Panarin, and will Columbus get back in a potential trade? Watch till the end to find out. Now, Artemi Panarin is a left winger at age 27 with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He currently has a $6 million deal until after this season. After this season, he becomes a UFA. And so far this season with the Columbus Blue Jackets, he's just had an amazing season points-wise. He's played 50 games up to this point, getting 20 goals, 40 assists for 60 points. And when it comes to Artemi Panarin, you really can't ask for much more. Now, Artemi Panarin has been one of the guys swirling around the trade rumors pretty much since the start of the NHL season. He's been a guy that we've seen a ton of new rumors, a ton of new news about. At the start of the season, we saw him saying that he wanted to leave the Columbus Blue Jackets, his agent saying that, and of course all the statements that he would not talk contracts until after the season. And we've pretty much been hearing the same rumors time after time again. We've been getting more rumors at the last couple of weeks, and heading up to the trade deadline, it's seeming like Artemi Panarin will finally get traded. Now, big question surrounding the Artemi Panarin trade rumors pretty much throughout this whole season is which NHL team would actually be going after him and actually wanting to be trading for him. And that's something that we haven't really known for a while, but in the last few weeks we've gotten a better picture and a better idea of which teams will be actually interested. And in this video, I'll list 5 that I think will be pursuing him the most. Now, the first team I want to mention is the Florida Panthers, and the Florida Panthers and the Columbus Blue Jackets are some of the most interesting teams heading into this NHL trade deadline because their GM, Dave Talon, said they were super interested in Sergei Bobrovsky, they were super interested in Artemi Panarin, and that just sets the mood for the entire trade deadline. But Florida could be one of those teams to make a big splash, and Columbus is already looking to do that. But right now, for the Florida Panthers, it seems like their biggest priority is getting Sergei Bobrovsky and trading for him this season. As I said in my trade rumors video about a week ago, I said the Florida Panthers, and the Florida Panthers seem to be one of the most interested teams in Sergei Bobrovsky, and I feel like that will eventually happen, and I feel like if Florida Panthers are going to trade for either of the two guys, they'll likely trade for Sergei Bobrovsky, but if they do go after Panarin first, it can set up a pretty interesting trade for both sides. Now, when it comes to a potential mock trade, Florida has quite a few assets, and I think they would be willing to give up when it comes to a potential Panarin trade. With Florida, I feel like if they were to get Artemi Panarin, they would sign him for long term, so that value also increases. For Florida, they get Artemi Panarin, obviously, but the players going back to Columbus go as follows: Derek Brassard, who we kind of knew was going to get traded anyways, Alexei Heponiemi, Max Gilden, 2019 first and third round pick, and last but not least, Saron Noel. Now, that package is pretty big compared to normal, mostly because of 2 reasons. 1, it's Artemi Panarin, and 2, I think if Florida were to trade for him, it would go, maybe they would sign up for like 6 or 7 years at that point. So I feel like Florida would give just a little bit more to make that happen, and that's a big package to give up for Artemi Panarin. Artemi Panarin is a very talented winger, but that's a lot of prospects and a lot of picks, but Florida has shown in the past that they can be quite crazy, and I wouldn't put them past them to trade a lot of assets for Artemi Panarin right now. Now, the next team I want to mention is the Boston Bruins. They are a team that I think would work pretty perfectly with Artemi Panarin right now. And while I don't see Artemi Panarin signing long-term in Boston or Boston wanting to sign him long-term, I still think for a possible playoff run, it could work quite nicely. And for Boston, if they're going to trade for Artemi Panarin, I think a lot of it has to do with mindset and what they're looking for. With Boston, we know they already got the superstars, they already got the amazing first line in front of them, so if they want to add to that star power, a guy like Artemi Panarin would do wonders for that team. But at the same time, they do kind of need depth, they need depth scoring, and that's something that they have been lacking a lot throughout this season, so I could see them going after that route, not going after Panarin, but going for more depth pieces, which could happen, but I feel like Panarin would be a solid fit for that team and would definitely boost a potential playoff run. Now, for a mock trade, the player going back to Boston, of course, is Artemi Panarin, but the players going to Columbus go as follows: Matt Grzelcyk, Ryan Donato, Urho Vaakanainen, and a second-round pick in 2019. Now, the reason that isn't as much as what Florida was going to give up was mostly because Panarin would like to be a rental in Boston, but that is still a pretty decent chunk to give up. Vaakanainen is a very solid defensive prospect. Donato still has a lot of potential as a forward. Grizzlick is a very solid defenseman and for the Boston Bruins, and that second round pick still has quite a bit of value. So it's a lot to give up for a rental, but Artemi Panarin is one of the best rentals that we've seen for a long time. So for Boston, it might just be worth it. Now, the next team I want to mention is the Carolina Hurricanes, and they are probably the least likely team to end up getting Panarin in this 5, but I feel like it'd be very, very interesting for both the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Carolina Hurricanes. And if the Carolina Hurricanes want to bona fide a playoff run, why not go after the best guy in Artemi Panarin? Now, while I still see it as unlikely that Carolina would actually land Artemi Panarin, I still think it would be a very interesting scenario and could make Artemi Panarin maybe stay in Carolina. Now, in this scenario, when it came to my mock trade, I had Artemi Panarin staying and signing in Carolina, so it's a little bit more value than they probably should give up. But even if Carolina wants to go after him as a rental, that could still work out pretty well as they're in a pretty bona fide playoff race. Now, the mock trade goes as follows. The player going to Carolina, obviously, is Artemi Panarin, but the players going back to Columbus are very, very interesting. Now, you start out with Jani Kuokkanen. He's been amazing so far in the AHL as a 20-year-old. He was drafted 43rd overall back in 2016. He's a pretty valuable chip piece. You also got Lucas Wallmark, who's been factoring into their team right now in the NHL this season. He's been pretty solid. I also got Justin Falk, who is still a pretty solid defenseman. He hasn't been the greatest fit in Carolina for the last couple of years, but he's a guy that I think Carolina would offload, especially if they can get Artemi Panarin extended. And last but not least, you have a 2019 second round pick. Now, let's say Artemi Panarin is just a rental. That's a pretty steep price for Carolina to pay, especially when you got guys like Justin Falk there. But let's say Artemi Panarin actually extends in Carolina and is happy with the team. That is a pretty big steal, I would say, for Carolina, even though there are some very valuable pieces in there. I still think like getting a guy like Artemi Panarin for that little, especially if he's extended, would be a good win for Carolina. And even if he's just a rental, that price is reasonable. Now, the next team I'm going to mention is the New York Rangers. They are a very interesting team when it comes to Artemi Panarin and the teams that he could possibly go to. We heard about the teams that Artemi Panarin was interested in going to earlier in the season. The New York Rangers, I think, were the #1 team that he was interested in going to. He wanted to go to that bigger market. They get that bigger spotlight that Columbus really couldn't provide. But if you like the New York Rangers, I feel like it's more likely that they maybe go after Artemi Panarin in the offseason. Still, trading for him could be very, very interesting, especially this season. Now, as I said before, with Panarin, he obviously has interest in being with the New York Rangers, so if the New York Rangers even trade for him this season, I feel like Panarin will sign 100%. And the New York Rangers definitely have the cap space in the future to do that kind of thing. And with Artemi Panarin, with the New York Rangers, they've been kind of rebuilding in the last couple of years, but having Artemi Panarin and bringing him in would accelerate that rebuild exponentially. And yes, while New York has been building up that prospect pool, they can likely put that in Artemi Panarin, which is a pretty good investment. Now, when it came to the mock trade, I had Artemi Panarin extending in mind, so this was a pretty steep price for New York to pay, but this was probably in result of Artemi Panarin likely extending in New York. Now, for the player going back to New York, it is, of course, Artemi Panarin, but the players going back to Columbus, I think, are very, very interesting, especially with New York trying to offload some guys in this trade deadline. The first guy is Kevin Hayes. He's a center. He's a pretty solid guy and has been playing very, very well this season. He's a guy that Columbus could possibly use for a maybe playoff run to shore up that center depth. You also got Brett Howden, who is in the same position, a good young player. I think he's like 20 years of age. Another young center that could also factor into Columbus. You also got Vinny Lettieri, who is in the AHL playing very, very well. You got Nils Lundqvist, who is in the SHL and is a very good, promising defensive prospect. And last but not least, you have a third-round pick in 2019. Now, the last team I'm going to mention is the Nashville Predators, and for me personally, they are the most likely team to trade and acquire Artemi Panarin this season. Now, with the Nashville Predators, I still don't see Artemi Panarin extending in Nashville, but I still see them as the most likely trade candidate, especially the news and the rumors that we've been getting in the last couple of weeks. Now, as the trade deadline approaches, we've seen a lot of teams come up and get interested in guys like Sergei Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin. But Nashville has been a very interesting team in the last couple of days, have started to really pursue Artemi Panarin, and kind of quietly. Now, Chris Kook on Twitter said, and he's a pretty reliable reporter with The Athletic for the Washington Capitals, he had some non-Capitals news, and he pretty much just spewed out a bomb, saying that the Nashville Predators were inquiring and were interested in trading for a guy like Artemi Panarin. Now, in this mock trade scenario, I have Nashville going away with Panarin in the offseason, so keep that in mind. But for the player going to Nashville, obviously it is Artemi Panarin. But the players going back to Columbus are pretty interesting. Starting out with Dante Fabro, who looks to be a great upcoming defenseman for the Nashville Predators, will likely slot in very well in the top 4 of Columbus. He's a pretty solid prospect. Then you got Ryan Hartman, who was traded last year from the Chicago Blackhawks to Nashville through that trade deadline last year. It never quite worked out, and I don't feel like Hartman had a great fit there. He could use a change of scenery in Columbus. You also got Grant Mishmash, who has an amazing name. He's currently in NCAA and is not a bad forward prospect whatsoever. And you also got a first-round pick and a third-round pick, that third-round pick being Florida's pick. And I know a lot of Nashville Predators fans would not like to give up on Dante Fabro, but I feel like adding a guy like Artemi Panarin for the Nashville Predators would be absolutely huge and could put them over the edge of the Winnipeg Jets and put them over the edge in that Western Conference. And for the Nashville Predators, I feel like they're not done with the moves. They got Boyle, they got McLeod a few days ago. I feel like there's more to come for the Nashville Predators, and getting a guy like Artemi Panarin could be the final piece to the puzzle. But Artemi Panarin is one of the best available players that we've seen for a long time. And going into the trade deadline, there's going to be a lot of teams fighting for his rights and fighting for the opportunity to trade with him. But it's going to be really interesting to see going into that trade deadline which teams go after him, which teams heavily pursue him, and of course the team that actually ends up trading for him. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about Artemi Panarin? What do you think about the 5 teams that I mentioned in this video? And of course, up to you guys, which team do you think Artemi Panarin will end up on? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch a video about Wayne Simmonds and the 5 potential landing spots that he might get traded to. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And comment down below your thoughts on Artemi Panarin and where he will end up. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.